I think of things as being meant to be, while losing both of them is not what we wanted. There are ways that, their spirit helps us push forward in something to make the world a little bit better. You want to tell me about your dad?
Yeah. The one word that comes to mind right off the bat, goofy.
I already love him. So his name was Chris.
Chris, yeah.
Chris Schwartz, yeah.
Big goofball.
Yeah.
Loving. Dependable. He was just a go-to person for so many people. Wherever he was, he put his whole heart into it, whether that was at home, at his full-time job, or at one of his many part-time jobs. He worked for the state full-time.
Oh, wow.
But he worked here part-time. He worked at the arena in Trenton part-time. He worked at the Princeton athletic field part-time.
So he kind of likes sports?
So what's funny, actually, he was not a big sports lover.
No. It's kind of odd jobs to have.
For the almost 20 years he worked here, he was a ticket taker, and he had the same post. He had the same gate that he worked at.
Really?
Actually, right over there, down by the river.
Yeah.
So he couldn't see the game, and people are like, well, why would you want to be at this post if you can't see the game? He's like, oh, I'm actually really not here to see the game. I'm here to just see the people. He was a huge people person. And he made so many friends. Thank you. He had regulars since he was at the same gate for almost 20 seasons, and he worked almost every game. People knew him. They knew that Chris would be there. And he used to wear this apron. I have no idea where he got it from. I think Home Depot, but it had pockets in it. And he would have everything that you would ever need. Like, he would carry matches. He wasn't a smoker, but he would carry them so that way if a smoker went out his gate and didn't have a lighter, he had it for him. He had napkins, he had hand sanitizer, he had sunscreen, he had everything. He used to clip his radio to the fence so he could hear the game, just to kind of know. And not because he was a baseball lover,
right,
but so that way if people were down there smoking or out by the gate,
they didn't miss anything.
And, or if they asked him a question, like, hey, what inning are we in? He would know.
I mean, 20 years to be the host, that people would come to see. It was part of the experience for them. These people in our lives, they're the fabric, right? And we just happen to be, be able to kind of breeze by them, but we need them there. They're the constants that, sort of go from point to point. What was his other job that, for the state?
He worked in finance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, he did various different roles in the state. He worked for different departments over his whole career, but he made a bulk of his friends at those departments and divisions, and they're lifelong friends. They were the friends who came and checked on him, would call him, come visit him. Some of them were the pallbearers. When he loved with his whole heart. He just built those lifelong relationships and friendships with people. And he did that everywhere he went.
So what year or what month and year was he diagnosed?
He was diagnosed in September of 2021.
Wow. So not that long ago.
No.
When he was diagnosed, and usually this is the typical case with pancreatic cancer, we get this sort of stage 4 diagnosis right away. Was that?
Yes. It had spread a bit, so he was not a candidate for Whipple, but
It wasn't just an encapsulated tumor. There were multi.
Yeah. He did chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
He went with a trial, and he did really well on the chemotherapy for about a year and a half.
like they say, went into remission, but it's never really gone, right?
Right. He did chemo treatments. I think it was either once a week or once every 2 weeks. But he did retire from his full-time job during that. But he continued to work here.
God, this stubborn. So stubborn.
He continued to work here, being here, working here. This was normalcy.
Yeah.
This helped give him more time. If you just looked at him, you couldn't tell that he had terminal cancer. Of course, those closest to him knew that his hair was thinning and eventually he lost his hair and he was losing weight. But I think anyone here, if they didn't know what he was going through, they wouldn't have thought that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
He didn't let them see what was happening.
No.
The strength that they have is just incredible. We all wish that we could have that kind of, resolve, to be able to fight through.
Absolutely.
How did he know something was wrong?
So that summer of 2021, he started to notice his appetite wasn't what it was. He lost a little weight. And then as it got closer to August, occasionally he couldn't hold food down. Mm-hmm. He had this little pocket counter and he would keep everything in there. It didn't matter what it was. It could have been a day trip he took with me and my mom. Could have been a great lunch spot he went to. When he threw up, he jotted everything down. So he had like the paper trail. So I don't know exactly when, but he would know exactly when he started.
He had a smartphone where it could do everything. It didn't matter. He had to write
He had to write everything down. He had a color coordinate. He knew that if he highlighted this in pink, it meant that. If this was highlighted in blue, it meant that. Everything was jotted down. That was, my mom used to joke, like his Bible. He would bring it everywhere he went, and just everything was in there. So when exactly he started to not be able to hold food down, it was around August of 2021. He had a gastrointestinal doctor that he went to. Right. Just over the years, he had different things that he just wanted to keep on top of. He was diagnosed with GERD. I don't remember when, but that was something that he dealt with and medicated. Mm-hmm. So when he noticed these things happening, he just thought, okay, it's either the GERD, I need a new medication, maybe I have kidney stones or something with the gallbladder. So he made an appointment, and his GI doctor, his office is located in a hospital. So when he went to the doctor's appointment, the doctor said, okay, let's do a endoscopy. We'll schedule that. So that was scheduled for September of 2021. And the doctor said, there's a blockage. We can't tell there's a blockage, but I would go to the hospital. I would go admit yourself to the ER right now.
Yeah.
And that word, blockage, because we didn't know what that meant.
Could be anything.
It could be anything. My dad kept saying, well, the doctors just say there's a blockage and something is obstructing and just got to check it out. And just kind of snowballed from there. Did
he have I think it's called an ERCP to clear out?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, my mom had to have a few of those. And extremely painful, just to be able to breathe or eat, and just routine procedures, once after, It's like, how many ways can you affect the body? It's like chemo or radiation or these procedures just to maintain the status quo.
And that's exactly what it was.
Right.
Just maintaining it.
And he passed recently.
He passed away in March of 2023.
So we're now over a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yeah. And how are you doing?
Just taking it day by day. Some days really, really are hard. So in those days, it's minute by minute, hour
and I see
by
you
hour.
have the tattoo.
Oh, yeah.
And is that something that helps you?
Oh, absolutely. I had this tattoo done in November, this past November. It says, "Love always, Daddy." And it's from a card that he wrote me back in the early 2000s. So it's in his handwriting. And I can't even tell you if this was a birthday card, a Christmas card, because something else that you need to know about my dad. He would just write cards
They're so similar. They're so similar. It's just, I feel like you're talking about my mom.
I mean, it was ingrained in me at a very young age. You have to write a thank you note to express your gratitude and appreciation. And, as a kid, I was like, okay, sure, Dad. But now I understand the value. He would write me cards that I would come home to from elementary school just to have on the table. He would mail me cards so I would have mail, because a little kid, that's exciting. So he would spend the time to write just like a thinking of you card and spend the time and the money on the postage stamp to have it mailed to our house. So I don't even remember what this card was. I think it was just a thinking of you. It didn't have to be a card. It could have been a Post-it note. It could have been a newspaper article that made him think of me, and he would cut it out and highlight it and date it. That was another thing. He dated everything.
She always knew what was happening.
Always knew. He just basically kept a scrapbook of his life. It was a timeline. It could be anything. Wow. A menu from a restaurant he liked.
Wow.
Broadway show tickets. He kept train tickets, and he would date it. And when he looked back on it, he remembered and he knew. And he was like, hey, do you remember this? It happened this day, this year. So in my locket, there's a picture of my dad and I from a promise ceremony we had about a week or two before he passed. My fiance and I wanted my dad to be involved because I knew that he wouldn't be there for our wedding. So we had a ceremony. We had an officiant, the whole setup of a real wedding. And there's a part who gives his bride away. And my dad says, I do. And I'm hoping to use that audio clip in our real wedding ceremony. So that way he's a part of the day.
My son over there he didn't know her, but we found out we were pregnant with him 2 weeks before she passed. And she knew that he was going to come here. One thing he said to me once, he says, I miss my mom. I said, but you never met her. And he says, but I always feel like I know her. He actually inherited toughen up here. He inherited her artistic ability, and it's incredible to be able to see the light shining through. So I know it's important that their stories get told through every generation. So,
and I made that known to my dad when he was in the ICU. I don't know, gosh, a month before he passed, before he went into home hospice, he was in the ICU. And I had just a one-on-one with him. I held his hand and I said, you would have been the best grandpa, without a doubt. The absolute best. I've always just looked forward to it because I know how quirky and goofy he is, and he would have just been the best, most loving, goofy, funny grandpa. And he just shook his head and cried and said, thank you.
The stories you'll tell will mean everything. I must tell 100 stories to him all the time just to get him to know her, and I think that's the same thing here.
I know, waterproof is not waterproof.
Yeah. All right. There was a moment when I met John Rodner, the general manager of Trenton Thunder, obviously a good friend to your dad. Recently, he had come to my synagogue over in Yardley, and he was kind of pitching Trenton Thunder, and I was like, oh, marketing opportunity. Let me get in there and talk to him. We had just started talking about, life in general. We went out to lunch, and he said to me, he's like, how can I get involved with Trenton Thunder? And he's like, well, we have a couple events that need sponsoring. And he said, Strike Out Cancer, which is this August 16th. And I immediately choked up because, I know where he was going with it. And I'll tell you about the date, which is pretty spectacular. I said, why are you doing this? Like, this is great. He goes, we lost Chris. And he was just everything you described and more so. And I asked what he passed from. And he said pancreatic cancer. And I couldn't breathe. And I said, my mom, that's what she passed from. And I said, what date is the event? He said, August 16th. And I couldn't talk for a minute. It's the day my mom passed. So I knew that this had to happen. I said, no, you got it. I said, sign me up. I said, I want to be a part of this. And then I told him a little bit about my mom. And a few days before, and I've told this story many times, but my mom was diagnosed in 2006, and she was at 7.5 years old.
Wow.
She was the person that people went to, the person that wrote everything down, the goofball, the one that knew everything. Her organization is legendary. We have books at home. I couldn't get rid of my mom's books. She had literally every book that she read, what she thought about them. If it was good, it had this color-coordinated sticker. And still, to this day, people come to borrow books from the P. Miller Library in our house. And she had cards made because she was an elementary art teacher in Pennsbury, so everything had a design to it. So it was from the library of P. Miller. And she knew when you would check out the book, and she would let you know, it's been a few weeks to check out that book back. But she in 2013, she passed, and then it was actually on my birthday, August 14th. She had come up to New York to see a Broadway show. And we were like, Mom, what are you doing? And I've said this before, but she was very jaundiced. She had lost a lot of weight. But she's like, it's your birthday. I want to come up and I want to see Book of Mormon. I have to see Book of Mormon.
That.
The raunchier, the better. Like
one of my favorite musicals.
Absolutely. I mean, so funny. And I was like, Mom, what'd you think? She came back. She saw the matinee. And it was a Wednesday. And she was like, oh, I laughed my ass off. And I just never forgot that. And, I always made a joke. I was like, Mom, you have no ass. You have pancreatic cancer. I don't want you to laugh off anymore. So that kind of played in me. And then, I got the unfortunate news 2 days later. On August 16th, my dad told me to come down to Jefferson. And, things had just taken for the worse. And she had 3 bouts of remission. She had remission and came back. She had sort of like a modified Whipple. And she started, the way she figured it out was similar to your dad. She couldn't have ice cream anymore. She was like, how can I not have ice cream? And it was her general internist. She said, Arnie, I don't understand. Why can't I eat ice cream anymore? And he goes, that's weird. Let's go get some tests done. And from that, she was able to sort of, understand her own body and know something was wrong. But back to John, I said, I have this idea, this laugh my pancreas off. And he goes, oh, we have to do it here. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, we're going to do it 8 days after this event. I go, yeah, no pressure at all to sell 2 tickets. It's like, we want people to come to Strike Out Cancer on August 16th, and we want people to enjoy comedy on August 24th. And I hope you're going to be there as well.
I hope to. I plan on it.
Because I think he would crack up. Because one thing, you get to laugh up until the end. No one's allowed to tell you aren't allowed to enjoy life and laugh. And in the card I wrote to you, it was, because my mom always said, write cards, give gifts, be there for other people. May he live on with his, thinking about his life, his love, his laughter, and to be able to enjoy a ball game, whether you like baseball or not, or be able to, come to a comedy show, in the place that now I think for both of us is now forever.
Yeah, this was
a home.
This is one of his places.
Yeah. We've been in Bucks County for over 40 years in my family, and come to countless games, and and just having this incredible facility in our backyard and this incredible place. And Chris and so many other people that we've had in our lives are not going to be the last ones to be diagnosed, and it's important.
Unfortunately.
And it's important that we keep fighting.
And that's why, before he was diagnosed, I've heard of the cancer, pancreatic, but I didn't know too much about it.
Because you didn't know what a pancreas did.
Honestly, no.
No, nobody does. Nobody does.
No, not really.
And it's incredibly important. It regulates your entire, what's it called, system, your endocrine system. Yeah.
It does a pretty big job.
Pretty big job.
I knew, though, when the doctor came into the waiting room to tell my mom and I the diagnosis, she said, it's stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And my first thought is, like, fix mode. Okay, what can we do? What's the next step? What are we going to do? My mom's first reaction, though, was just broke down crying. And I said, what is it, Mom? She goes, you don't want to know. And she said, we're going to get through this together, me and you. And we'll do it together.
My dad and I were at a Pan-Can walk recently, and the host, who had also lost someone, is Brian Sheehan from NBC 10. He was saying by 2030, the 5-year survival rate will be up to 20%. And my dad and I were just like, that's it?
I was at the Pan-Can walk this past year too. And same thing, those numbers and stats were given. And it was just speechless.
We have to do better, and I think getting these stories out, talking about, making sure that pancreatic cancer is not ignored. It is incredibly deadly, and it's not allowed to be. Like, we must get to a point in our lifetimes where it's not a death sentence. We shouldn't be looking at this with just utter defeat, just because it's terrible analogy here. Bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. We're down 4 runs, and or 3, whatever, or we're down, and we've got the best hitter up at the plate, and that's how we want it. We want to say, game's not over.
Right.
I love the idea of striking out cancer. My mom was they were just married, my dad, and they moved to Willingboro, New Jersey, and they moved in this compound, like an apartment complex. And my mom was about to put detergent in the dryer. And this man was like, what are you doing? And she's like, I don't know. I've never done laundry before. I'm recently married, and I've got to. And he's like, let me help you out. I have to do a lot of laundry, and she showed him, that's the dryer. Here's the washing machine, and put the detergent in. And she noticed in his pile a lot of baseball stuff. And she's like, what? Are you on a team? He goes, yeah, I play for the Phillies.
Wow.
And she's like, oh. My mom didn't know anything about baseball. She's like, okay, I guess that's a big deal. What's your name? And my husband will probably know you are. And he's like, Larry Boa. Which I do. I
don't know much about baseball, but I do know the name.
So he's a young guy, and he was doing. But what I always think is funny is that Larry Boa was doing his own laundry, like early. It was like 1969, 1970. He's doing his own laundry, and my dad was like, "Are you kidding me?" We became a 4-for-4, big Philly fan from then on. And baseball has always been sort of a part of our lives. My mom would come to the games. She'd bring a book. It was always from her library. Mm-hmm. She'd be reading a book. Oh, okay. Are they winning? Okay. Are they losing? Me and my dad would, everything is like a tragedy if it's a loss. And she's like, it's just a game. It's just a game. It's so even keeled. Yeah. And I think about, if the two of them are up there now, they're probably joking. They're probably going, why are everyone obsessed with this game, but maybe they're sitting up there and they're rooting for all of us.
I like to think he's up there with his radio.
Absolutely.
With his little apron on. And his Trenton Thunder hat that's filled with all of the pins. I don't know if they told you that.
No. No, now I want pins because I'm a huge collector of like everything. So
I don't know how he did it. It was so heavy, but his Trenton Thunder hat, just over the years of him working here, if he would go somewhere and get a pin, not baseball related, just a pin, and he would add it to his pin collection, and his hat was just glistening. When people think of Chris Schwartz,
it's that,
and they know who he is, they think of the hat.
So I just want to end by saying I thank you so much for supporting, Strike Out Cancer, That Funny Agency, Laugh My Pancreas Off, all of what we're doing. Sharing your story with us is not easy. I think the more we talk about it, it helps.
It heals a little bit.
It heals a little bit.
Just a little bit.
I think about the hole in our heart that can't be filled, but it's the people around us, the baseball players around, that are protecting that infield. And that's how we get through this. We protect ourselves. Thank you so much. And
thank you so much for having me.
And please tell your family we are thrilled to honor him. And that's it. Let's strike it out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.